to dissolve the fear, which is what we've been doing for the last 24 days. I want you to know that I'm really grateful that you've all taken some time out in your lives to log into Facebook and see what we're doing here. I've got a little music in the background, and I hope that that's been helpful for some of you. I would love comments if you're on this stream and you're present and have been present. I can't always see who's checking this out, so it's always great to get comments because then I can respond to you. And if you have any questions or you want any support, more importantly, reach out to me that way. That way I can get back to you and we can establish a dialogue and think through some of the subject matter that I've been discussing for the last 24 days. So thank you all again for being here. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to walk you through some of these challenging times and to try to solve the fear, because the fear is real. It's not, this thing isn't going away anytime quickly, and it's not been an easy experience for lots of us. So, but what I wanted to talk to you about tonight is really the big kahuna. It's the big question of how do you connect with God? How do you do that? And I had an interesting experience. I went outside today and I built a fire and in my outdoor fire pit, and I started to record a Facebook piece, or at least a video of myself doing this very thing. And I didn't have enough internet access to actually upload it and send it out on Facebook. So I'm going to have to come up with another way of doing that. But what I was doing was setting up 2 chairs outside this fire pit. Now, I love fire pits and I love fires because I don't know if it's an Aboriginal connection, but what I love about it is that it draws me into a deeper sense of meditation. The heat, the flames, the smoke, the whole concept of a circular fire pit and adding wood to the fire and hearing the crackling and the sizzling and watching the flames burn. There's something very, very medicinal about it. And I use that word deliberately. It's a mystical experience to be outside in a fire and to tend it and to meditate on it, because it really draws my attention, and I cannot focus. I tend to not focus on anything else, which is really what it's all about. And there's a healing quality about an outdoor fire. So if you've got an outdoor fire pit and you haven't visited it in a while, I urge you, I recommend, and I invite you to take a couple of chairs, go outside and sit in one of them. And I'm going to explain to you, I'm going to tell you a story about why I do this. When I was in college, there was a professor named Dr. Ortner, who was a teacher, a professor of psychology, sociology. He was the local marshal. He was the pastor of a Lutheran church in town. He was essentially the Renaissance man on campus, and he had this really cool office on the 3rd floor of what we called Bagby Hall. And he often brought his boxer in, this kind of middle-sized dog, whose name completely escapes me. Maybe if one of you who are from my college days can remember the boxer's name, I'd be very grateful if you pass it along. But Dr. Ortner was sort of a sage. He was just a wonderful professor, and I really enjoyed him. And I went to him one day because I knew he had all this background, and I said, "Look, man, I'm struggling with my faith, struggling with college, struggling with relationships, struggling with my fraternity brother." I mean, I don't remember exactly why I went, but I knew that I was having a tough time connecting to God. He said, "Well, why don't you have a seat and let's talk about that?" And he said, "What is it like to speak to God in your experience?" And of course, I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, I prayed. I, maybe read some scripture or connected to some of my memories of being in church. And he said, "Well, here's what I do." He said, "I take a chair and I put it in front of me and I just begin to speak. And that's my conversation with God, because God is eternal. God is everywhere. God is in our highs. God is in our lows. God is in our best moments. God is in our worst moments. In other words, we are loved whether we know it or not. I mean, it's kind of a universal truth about any religious perspective. I mean, God is there, and God is always asking us to be who we are. And and sometimes we are where we need to be, right where we are, no matter where that is. So that is not just that's a theological message that you can find in any tradition, in any system of belief. God is here. God is with us. And God is imploring us to reach out and to try to listen. So the fire for me does that. The fire allows me to listen and to process and to just focus on just that. So I sat down this afternoon and I looked at that chair and I imagined God. And I imagine God in a lot of different things. I mean, I've had Western experiences, I've had Eastern experiences, I've had these tremendous moments. Some of you know I've met Mother Teresa, so I've got a whole kind of toolbox of places where I can go and images that I can use. And I invite you to come up with an image that works for you, and maybe put a chair in front of yourself because times are tough. These are, I hate the word now unprecedented because I started using that weeks ago, and we all know that already. But I think these times are transformational. I mean, I have to say, I wouldn't be doing this right now if it wasn't for this critical mass that's happening in the culture. And I'm actually excited to be moving into this realm again because many of you know I disappeared from the church 11 years ago, and I went through a really tough time. And I left, and I was mad at God, and I was mad at the church, I was mad at everybody, and I was resentful and resistant, and I just didn't feel it inside. But now, thanks to this sort of epidemic, I'm like, wow, I gotta go back and pull out my gifts and use them in ways that I never expected to have to use them again. So here we are. We're in this moment of time where we're dissolving the fear. And there is some fear out there. There's anger out there. There's blaming now, and there's finger pointing and all this really rabid, ugly stuff that's happening. And we can see it almost any night you turn on the news. But what I want to do is teach you how to talk to a chair. And if you can talk to a chair outside and around a fireplace, you got a lot going for you. Okay, so let's pretend that there's a fire in the background. It actually is still burning outside as I speak, but I had to come inside because I needed internet. Um, so so here's my attempt to show you, and it's really kind of simple stuff, right? So, God, thank you for being available for me. I've got a lot of questions. I wish I had all the answers, but I don't. I'm just one human person trying to live and survive and feel safe in this culture that seems to be running on a razor's edge. And I want to stay on the beam. I don't want to fall off the beam. I want to be on the beam. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. I want to be abundant. I want to see that this is indeed, yes, a challenge, but it is a time for me to rise up and for others to rise up and be their best selves. And I don't know how to do that, Lord. I don't always know how to do that. So, I'm asking you to be in my body, to be in my bones, to be in my organs, to be in my cells, to help me empower the people that are, looking to me in this medium as well as others, to give them some kind of an insight, to give them some of the sort of strength. Help me be me, and help me rise above, and be thoughtful and kind and caring and approachable and soft um, and intuitive enough to pick up on how I can pray for myself and my family and my friends and those around me and the world. I mean, I don't think any prayer right now goes unanswered. I think it's really important for the light workers of the world, God, to be inspired. So help us, help me. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the vision to be able to see it this way, because it could be, completely the opposite. I'd be running scared, trying to hide, trying to duck and weave, but that's not going to solve anything. So, Lord, thank you for being with me. Thank you for keeping me safe and healthy. Thank you for keeping my new family healthy and safe. Thank you for my children who seem to have a millennial or whatever the next generation is, ability to kind of take this in stride. They don't seem to be that afraid of it. Thank you for them. Thank you for all the experiences that I've had in my life that have led me to this point where I am able to really find the abundance in this, and the clarity and the strength and the renewed purpose. I thank you for that. But boy, oh boy, yes, thank you for my belief, but help me when I disbelieve, because there are plenty of times when I disbelieve. So Holy Spirit, God, however we describe you as you are, be with us all as we march through this difficult time. And let's be abundant. Let's think about abundance. Let's think about the joys. Let's think about how we're connecting in a whole different manner. So God, before me, I ask you to help me. Help me. Help me. And I invite those who are watching and listening to say the same prayer. Help us. Help us. Help us. And allow us to be instruments of your grace and your joy and your love, and to give as best we can in this time of crisis, and to dispel the fear, and to dissolve the anguish, and help us to not just focus on all the negative, but focus on the positive things that are happening, because that's the light, that's the gift. Those are the things that are going to lift up humanity away from the scourge. I truly believe in that. Because energy and evil and negativity only deepens the scar, only deepens the shrapnel that is the collateral damage of this whole thing. So guide us and touch us and strengthen us and help us to return to the fire. Return to the fire of strength, which is your heart and your love for who we are, and how we can then be messengers and instruments of that same love, that same energy, that same power, and that same love. All right, folks, let's say a little prayer. As we walk away from the chair, having had a very kind of intense gaze at our understanding of God, know for sure that those prayers are heard. They're heard. And I believe right now that there are no angels left in heaven. They're all running around down here, trying to save us, trying to help us, trying to empower us and move us in the directions that actually make a difference. Heaven's empty because all those people that belong up there are down here. I truly believe in that. And there are miracles happening every single second of the day. What is a miracle? A miracle is a change of thought. A miracle is an unexpected experience. A miracle can just be a pleasant and guiding light of a thought that you address towards somebody in need. Those are miracles. Miracles where we get outside of ourselves. So let's refresh. Let's gaze at the fire. Imagine the fire, its circle, the warmth, the smoke, heat, the energy, and the focus that it gives us to move on in our evenings, to rest well tonight, and to wake up tomorrow not so much thinking about ourselves, but thinking of God and thinking of others, so that we can start the day not preparing for our own agenda, but perhaps for that little still voice that reminds us to be perhaps giving and appreciative and thoughtful and kind to somebody else. And maybe to not judge ourselves so harshly, but to love ourselves more so that we can love others. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you for showing up here tonight. Get an empty chair, sit it in front of you, and focus. Focus. And if you can do it outside around a fireplace, man, there's nothing better. Okay. Love you all. Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow night.